Welcome to Describing the Skybox, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Ruthermans.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about Slitterhead, a game that was developed and published by Bokeh Game Studio and released in 2024 on Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series X and S.
But first, if you can give us a like, a rating, or a subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. Chad, can you describe Slitterhead?
Barely. Slitterhead is a action game, a action horror game, 3D, level based. It feels like a game out of time, which is potentially thematically appropriate given the lead character is like a time traveler. But yeah, it was it wasn't a shock because I had seen gameplay of the game prior to playing it. But I was surprised as I went through the game how dated this felt for a game that came out in 2024. And I don't know if you had the same experience.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know anything about this game. So, yeah, it was much more of an action game in horror clothing than I expected. And yeah, I wanted to compare it to, like, Wanted Dead for obvious reasons, and feeling like it's like a PS2 or PS3 kind of feeling game. And also I wanted to compare it to Ukulele, weirdly.
All right, I'm here for it.
The like remake of or remaster of that just came out, so maybe it's just on the brain. But because I remember when that was announced, it was like, oh, a bunch of people who used to work at Rareware are forming a new company, and they're going to make a spiritual successor to a game they made in the 90s. It seemed like all the right people were working on it, and like it had a successful Kickstarter, and then they started making the game, and when it finally came out, it felt like it, was half finished. And I think this game feels similar because, yeah, it's like one of the creators of Silent Hill or something. Founded a new studio, and they're making this new horror game, and it's just, I feel like it's just the unfortunate state of the games industry, or maybe just economic stuff in general. Because I feel like, it feels like it didn't even have, I feel like it had less than half the budget it needed to make, like, to fully realize the concept.
Yeah, and it's such a strong concept too. It's so strange, like, approaching this game, because like you were talking about, like, it is developed, like the studio was founded by somebody who created Silent Hill, like a big name in the Japanese video game industry. But nothing is further away from Silent Hill than this game is in most respects, right? Like, this has very little of Silent Hill's, like, atmosphere or tone. Definitely so far away from the pacing of Silent Hill, it's laughable. And it feels like a totally different thing. And yeah, like something that was like a very ambitious idea that did not have the resources necessary to meet the goals that it set out for itself.
Right. Yeah. Like, not even close.
It's very wild. And what's funny is, I didn't like this. Okay, you wanted to compare it to Wanted Dead. I hate to say this, but I feel like it compares unfavorably to Wanted Dead, because, like, there were elements of this game that I really liked. A lot of conceptual elements, some mechanical combat related elements I thought were really good. And then a lot of the other stuff felt so mediocre. Whereas, like, with Wanted Dead, the stuff that was bad was so bad that it became funny. And in this game, it's so okay in so many areas that it instead becomes tedious.
Yeah, it's got that sting of like wasted potential too. Yeah, like there's a lot of elements. Like I feel like the body swapping in particular is a really cool idea. And like once you kind of get into the combat system and you have more than one rarity to jump between, and then you have all the different just, you know, regular people. And it feels like really good and like fluid at times, you know. Sometimes certain enemies can kind of like be kind of bullshit, but we'll get into that. But yeah, but exploring the environment though, I feel like there's so much untapped potential. There's like this one part early on where like you just in the game just tells you what to do, but like it feels like a tutorial for like things you'll be able to do in the future. Just like you can't get into this building, you have to like go around the side. It's like one of the first, you know, missions. You have to go around the side and like look in a window and see a guy is already inside and jump to him. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. I can imagine like a almost like Hitman style game that's like a little bit more open, and you just kind of have to use your abilities to just puzzle solve a little bit. But yeah, this game, at least as far as I play it, never really got there. But the potential that feels so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's very little puzzle solving in this game. There is an element of exploration that made me want to gouge my eyeballs out. But I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. Because I think what's interesting about it is that, yeah, it felt like there was untapped potential because the environments themselves are very like... I want to say they're like, I like the detail. I like the fact that there are tons of people around, which serves a mechanical purpose, but also is like an impressive thing to have just like a bunch of random civilians, and you can jump into their body at any time. But the game pulls a bit of a magic trick early on where you are running around, and like doing stuff, and it's interrupting you with tutorials, and it's guiding you through the city and everything. But then you end up in this situation where you realize, oh, I've only been in the same like 3 areas for the whole game, essentially. Like it's everything takes place in such a small, playable space.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think the game does like it just feels disappointing because I feel like the game puts like a pretty solid foot forward. Like I remember like there's like a mission where you have to like, I don't remember like if it's a nightclub or something you have to sneak into. You have to like turn these cranes, like you have to jump into these construction workers and turn these cranes, a la the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Of course.
So that you can jump up to the roof and like get in to the building. And then there's like a part later on, I think it's where you get like put in jail. You have to like escape the jail cells, and there's like you're in like a church where there's like a cult and stuff, and it's like some interesting stuff. But then like the variety like quickly falls off like almost right after that.
It's and I think we're linking this all back to this game's seeming lack of resources, right? Like there's lack of variety in the areas that you're going to, there's lack of variety in the enemies that you're encountering, and there's lack of variety in terms of just like your verbs as a player. There's just not, it seems like such a rich mechanical system with the possession and all of the abilities and stuff, but it doesn't ever really get more complicated than deflecting attacks and doing attacks back at them. And sometimes you can do a fancy attack, but it's like almost never worth it, at least on like normal difficulty.
Right. Yeah. It's like the combat system on the player's end. So like all of your attacks and animations and abilities are the only thing that got enough time and resources. Because like there's very little enemy variety. There's only like one boss, that you fight at the end of every mission. Like, and like the area, as you said, there's only 4 areas, so there's like nothing to really use those abilities and attacks against. and not any cool places to use them in. So yeah, it's like they accomplish like the bare minimum, basically.
And it's so funny because like as you unlock new characters to play as, they'll say like, this character specializes in attacking, so you should consider taking a companion that heals. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it feels like they wanted there to be so much more depth to it that just like didn't end up getting implemented. Where like, sure, maybe I would consider like trying to balance my rarities against each other in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, but like in a fight, you're just in everybody.
Right.
Over and over again. Like, it doesn't really matter who's on your team.
And can't everybody heal?
There's like specific abilities. And also everybody can heal. Yeah.
Well,
they say things like Try has like healing abilities, but she just doesn't really.
Yeah, Julie's got that one ability where she can res everybody.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of immediately, but I don't know if I would have thought of that as like her as a healer.
Right.
But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting thing because like you do the first handful of missions, you just have Julie, or at least that's the way it was for me before I picked up Alex. But I don't remember if you can do that right away or not.
I don't think so.
And because like once I got a second character, I'm like, oh, okay. This just got like a lot more interesting. Okay. I feel like it should have led with this. We should have started with two characters. Like I almost feel like, and it probably didn't go along with like their narrative or creative goals, but like it almost feels like it could have been designed more like an RPG, where you've got like a party of characters that you were swapping between. Like, because I feel like that's when it was the most satisfying. And yeah, like, and the characters are like kind of interesting for what they are. Like, more interplay between them, and like I feel like leaning into those kind of elements, I think, would have been an interesting way to take it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that there should be more interconnection between the characters from a narrative perspective, because you get very little interaction, and like taking them on, once again, this is another thing that would have just cost a lot of money to actually implement into the game. But like if you take characters out on missions together, they could have like an affinity system, but like maybe not that in depth, but just like have them have comments to each other that are related to what they actually are like. This game isn't like fully voice acted. It's partially voice acted. Mm-hmm. It's like if in Banjo-Kazooie, instead of just saying "Rop, rop, rop," they just said phrases, like English phrases that would repeat over and over again. Is how I would describe the dialogue in the game. So you could just kind of write whatever. But like if you bring people out, if they ever say anything, it's rare that it has anything to do with your other character. They're just like, I'm here too. Cool, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, you could have at least gone with like the like Chrono Trigger style, like team up attacks. Like if you use two characters together enough, then they unlock a duo attack or something.
That would have actually been extremely sick.
Yeah.
No, I do want to talk about. I want to take the temperature, I guess, from the first experience perspective here, because like I knew a little bit about the game. You knew nothing about the game. I wouldn't say that I knew so much that I had like a big idea in my head as to like what the game was about or how it played. So the first thing that I thought of is just this game has one of the most abrasive openings of any game that I've ever played, where you like start as a dog and you follow a scent around, and you're being bombarded with tutorial pop-ups, like one after another, after another, after another. Like it just keeps coming. And then they'll like warp you into a room so that you can practice the combat, which is also kind of weird. And then eventually you get to the part where you are possessing multiple people and then Julie. And then the game kicks you to this map screen that they call the mission screen. for some reason. And it plays this song that's like good, but then it will interrupt itself by being silent, and then there's somebody barking and someone who's just going brrrah, ah. And it's I just remember being like, I feel like I'm being overwhelmed by this game. Like I'm being assaulted on all fronts. And I took that as a very positive sign because I wanted something that was weird and abrasive. But it did, the effect wore off as the game went on, and it was much less weird than I was hoping. But that introduction had me like both hooked and repelled by the game at the same time.
I feel like not exactly the same, but I see where you're coming from. Like, I feel like the starting off as a dog thing is weird in a memorable way. I don't know if it was the best choice, but I will remember that. And yeah, I feel like there's way too many tutorial pop-ups is like taking the control away from you like way too frequently. I can't say I noticed the weird sound effects in the music.
That's crazy.
Yeah. This game had like I found is one of those games that had like terrible sound mixing in my opinion, because like I played it on the PlayStation 5, so I was like on my couch, and like if I turn it up, all the sound effects from the combat and stuff are like way too loud, and then if I turn it down, like all the music and like audio and dialogue and stuff is way too quiet. So I'm like constantly turning it up and down. So like the music wasn't super audible to me, like 50% of the time. So
that could explain it. Yeah, it's that menu song in specific. I actually have really positive views on the music, just as a general thing. And I know that we're not going to come back to it, so I'll just say it now. There are a few tracks that are like pretty great and like banging. There's like the boss combat music, I think, is especially good. It has like this insane drum intro, and then like is this like heavier song that feels like almost a little cheesy, but I think fits really well. And I do like the abstractness of the menu song with the dog barking in it. Like there's something about that appeals to me. So I actually am pretty positive on the music. However, I have to 1,000,000% agree with you that the sound mixing was dog shit. It was like, I only heard the music as often as I did because whenever I paused the game, the music keeps going, but you can't hear all the combat sounds, which were otherwise deafeningly loud. And I was playing on PC, so we had two different platforms, sound mixing bad on both. I wouldn't describe it as quite as bad as you did, but I think that like quality of headphones and all that stuff like is different than an ambient sound.
Right. Yeah. What were we talking about in general before the music?
The like our opening experience with the game and how strange it is. Yeah.
I think similarly to Wanted Dead, which we covered earlier this year, I feel like it made a decent first impression. Like I think the combat feels good, as I already said. Like the concept is weird. Like using blood as a resource for combat is really cool. The body swapping has a lot of potential, and even like the environments, like maybe it's like them having like a PS2, PS3 liminal quality or something. But like there's something I found kind of interesting about the atmosphere, like the areas created. I can't really describe it, but I was into it for that first playthrough, that first play session. So, but yeah, like, man, the diminishing turns hit hard. Like I played through, like the first mission, like the first full mission that actually had a boss at the end, after the one where you get Julie. So after the tutorial one, and yeah, like the next mission is like you're fighting the same enemies with the same boss at the end, and I was like, oh no. Like, is this gonna be just like the same mission over and over again?
And not only was it like the same mission over and over again, very many times, it was literally the same mission over and over again. I think it's the second mission at the cult island church area.
Right.
I had to play through 3 entire times in a row, like in a row. Like couldn't do other stuff. It was like I played it and then I remember what happened. There's a part of the mission where you sneak by a group of people sitting in like a big group, and you stealth by them, and then you have to get to an overhang area where you can possess a guy through a window. And as I was up there, I noticed the shrine on the bottom floor. So I possessed my companion who was on the bottom floor and did the shrine challenge. And then when I finished the shrine challenge, it teleported both of my characters back to the ground floor, and then replayed the dialogue from the beginning of the mission, forcing me to do everything again despite not restarting the mission. So I must have fucked up some kind of flag that they had to determine where you are in the level at that point. So I had to play the whole mission 2 times then, and then when I got out of it, it was like, you can't progress the story without unlocking another rarity. And where did I have a rarity? The very same mission. So I had to then do it again in order to unlock try. The repeating mission thing got incredibly tedious for me over the runtime of this game, and I will part of my thesis on this is that this game is like 3 times longer than it needs to be, and everything that it does to lengthen the game is mostly very boring and not a good choice.
Right. Yeah, it's rare that you find a game that feels this expensive and cheap at the same time, because it obviously looks pretty solid, had a lot of resources put into it, because the standard of quality for AAA games these days is so high. So yeah, it looks and controls about on par with what you would expect, but yeah, it just the money just evaporates.
Yeah, and I suspect that is probably what happened. It really was kind of a bummer, because this is the smallest I'm getting you started on the swing set type of pushback that I'm gonna give to the point that the game felt like you were doing the same mission over and over again, because I do think that there's some merit to the fact that this is a combat system that requires a certain level of mastery before it feels like you're truly repeating stuff. Like it feels like there's a learning curve to it. And once you kind of get a hang of it, then everything starts to feel the same. And that is a problem, because you get the hang of it after like 3 hours of game, probably.
Right.
But it has some complexity to it that made it not feel as bad fighting the same enemies very often. But then, yeah, it got bad. And I think that the worst part of it, as far as like the balancing for me, was late game bosses are still just like the big praying mantis looking slitterheads. But they've added them. They gave them the ability to affect you with a negative status, which is not anything different in their attacks or movesets.
Right.
And then the ones that are special, that have like their own missions and stuff in big arenas, are still largely the same, and even those ones have the same new attacks. Like they do the thing where they explode a bunch of blood in a circle, and they teleport with the yellow particle effect, and it's like most of them have like 1, maybe 2 unique moves to them, with the caveat that I did not fight the final boss because I was playing this game up until right now, essentially.
Yeah, I admire your effort to try and finish this game.
I really wanted to. I felt like I had enough time.
Yeah, I lost interest pretty quick. I was gonna say, I feel like the bosses look kind of like that thing that Obi-Wan has to fight in Attack of the Clones in the arena.
Oh, right, in the Clone Wars. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and I feel like they almost could have like leaned into some of those limitations in a more creative way, like which they kind of do with the story. I just wish they would have with gameplay more, because like you're essentially like repeating the same 3 days over and over to like get different outcomes and like save different people and like accomplish different things. And it's just like I feel like maybe you could have like done something with that to make it like feel more interesting, like maybe change things more, like or make you have like an effect on the world in some way or something. Like I just feel like that angle maybe could have helped alleviate things a little bit, but that was just something I was kicking around in my head.
No, that's true. The whole structure of the game makes me wonder if the narrative writing had to reflect the lack of budget at some point, where they were like, oh, we should introduce a time travel part of this story so that we can reuse these days over again. Like, I wonder where that decision was made, because it feels weird to have a story about time travel and about attempting to change events and have the player not be able to really change any events at all. At least like nothing outside of the prescribed sort of path. And even the way that the story plays out, right? The character is like Night Owl, the like your sort of POV ghost character that actually possesses people. It just keeps telling Alex over and over again, like, you can kill the Slitterheads as many times as you want. It won't ever change anything. But then he keeps going back and doing it again, which makes me go like, what is the point of all of what we've been doing? It felt like it was spinning its wheels for like 6 hours in the middle of the game, just waiting for something to happen, which it never did.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say, because it feels like it really could go either way, almost like a 50-50, at least in my head, because it is a cool idea, like doing the time travel story and being like, oh, we have to like keep reliving this 3-day loop. And so like it feels like it could have been a narrative thing first, like, or it could have been something they were forced to do because of they could only make enough areas for 3 days worth of missions. So it is a toss up.
And it's like, I want to talk about this game in a in a positive sense in certain ways. And I do kind of get the impression that this was a very controversial is the wrong word. It construes negatively in a weird way. I feel like from everything that I've seen, there are people who genuinely really love this game. And I feel like I want to pick out what it is about the game that makes people really like it. Because I think both of our experiences are that the game felt rushed, felt over padded, and lost both of our interests pretty quickly.
Right.
So I think I think there are 3 things about this game that people who do like it are probably attracted to. And I think the first thing is the combat system. I think the second thing is probably visuals. And then the third thing is just kind of the PlayStation 3-ness of it all.
Yeah, I agree with especially that one. Or your first and your third point, I think. Because, the combat system does seem like one that's going to really click with some people. And there's fun tricks and things that you can master and get better at. And it does have that older game structure of something that would have come out on the PS2 or PS3. And I think that's probably got a nostalgic appeal to some people, or they just kind of like go into a game. It's not an open world and there aren't a billion things to pick up and you just do missions with the fun combat. And I can imagine that being very appealing to some people.
Yeah. It has an old style of design that is like kind of surprising to me. Like it did give me flashbacks to games like, like Max Payne or whatever, like on the PlayStation 2. And I almost would go that far back as to like where the design inspirations for this come from. One, because it has an insufferably terrible stealth mechanic that it forces onto you many times early in the first half of the game, and then abandons in the second half of the game. And I wish that it had abandoned it before it made it into the game because it's miserable and I don't understand why it's there.
I would have forgiven it if it showed up once.
Yes.
But you get one freebie.
Yeah. You were allowed to have a terrible stealth mechanic in one level. But yeah, and it has this like mission structure and all these menus, and there's like skill points that you spend to upgrade your rarities. And then you forget that you didn't upgrade one of your rarities, and then you take them out and you're like, why does this person only have like 8 health? And I just die instantly with them. But that's beside the point. It just has all these like weird, and like the collectibles where you have to like run the missions again to find the collectibles, but you could like quit out after you get them. There's a point later in the game. I know I said I was going to talk positively about the game, but we have to address the fact that there's several points in the game where you can't continue unless you unlock the next character. And right. I am going to be an adult baby and say, please just have unlocking the character be a requirement to finish the mission, so I don't have to go through the whole mission again looking for the character. I hated doing it and it bored me. But 2/3 of the way into the game, I discovered you have to collect all of the old lady talk to points in order to unlock the last rarity, Betty, the old lady, and you can't progress through the game without her. It seemed like such an optional thing to me. Right. But I got to that point each previous time, and I was like, oh, where's the rarity thing? Like I was talking about earlier. Oh, it's in that mission I literally just did. But it would be on the map, and when I had to like look it up, I was like, there are no rarities left on the map, and it says I need a new rarity to continue the game. What the fuck am I supposed to do? And apparently the answer is go to 6 different levels to complete an optional objective in all 6 of them in order to unlock a rarity to progress the story. And I don't get it. It doesn't even feel like she made any difference to the story after I unlocked her. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I got way off track. I hated that element of this game a whole lot. But that is also a thing that like old games used to do.
Yeah, it feels like a much less interesting version of the Triforce charts and or Chozo keys from Wind Waker and Metroid Prime sort of thing. Like, go back and do the secret thing you didn't know about before you can finish a game. To pad it out.
Yeah, to make sure that the game isn't just 6 hours long or whatever. But it feels like in those games, and far be it from me to defend the Chozo keys, etc. But like, it did feel like when you found them, you were doing something new. Whereas in this game, it was like, did you check down every soulless alley in the city for an old lady? No? Well, then go fuck yourself.
Right.
But yeah, okay, back to it though.
Right. The things that people latch onto.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, I think that all of that we just discussed is kind of some. I think this game is probably nostalgic for some people in its design. It's harkening back to a simpler time when games were made in a more sort of video gamey way with objective maps and everything. And I think that's fine. I think that if you enjoy that, that more power to you. I hope that they make more games that will allow you to do that stuff. I do want to say that by the end of the game, I did think that the combat system was like pretty fun. I like that it's very defensive oriented. Like deflecting attacks is like your main thing that you do. And it goes from like there's like a momentum shift that happens between like the enemy being on the front foot and then you being able to deflect them and deal enough attacks so they collapse, and then you can do like huge amounts of damage all at once by chaining like different, like pulling a dude off the street to run over and smack him and then maybe make that guy explode, and then you jump back into another rarity and then you fight another guy. Like that, I think it was a fun juggling act once I get the hang of it. And it's only kind of hindered by the possession being like a little bit finicky with when it wants to jump into people properly. Because like I've missed a guy that I was targeting with the possession to have it go into another guy who has 0 HP left and then dies immediately.
Right.
I'm like, cool, thank you.
Just what I wanted.
Yeah.
I would largely agree with that. I found it, really annoying when the, whatever you would call it, the on-screen prompt for the parrying or the blocking, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, yeah,
wouldn't
the
show
indicator,
up.
I don't know.
Yeah, wouldn't show up if you were fighting multiple enemies. Because it, like, at least what I thought was happening was the lock-on, like the soft lock-on system the game has just doesn't know which target to pick. So if you're focused on the wrong one and the other one's attacking you, the prompt won't come up. That kind of stuff. So yeah. There's definitely finicky elements. But overall, I do think it's fun. And it kind of reminds me of what people say that they like a lot about Sekiro. I bounced off Sekiro. I know you can take some gamer points away from me.
And only from Andy, because everyone knows that I loved it.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I like the defensive nature where you feel like you're like blocking and you're building up a meter on the enemy. It does cause a nice back and forth that does feel good. And you add in the blood abilities, like healing from puddles of blood on the ground and swapping between people, and it can be fun with groups of enemies, even though some of the mechanics get a little finicky, where you're running around, jumping between guys to get behind some SWAT team personnel that have the giant shields and stun batons and stuff. So yeah, the chaos can be fun. The combat system definitely shines at certain points, for sure.
Yeah. There's like an ability that certain characters get that will alert you if a character that you aren't or if an enemy that you aren't locked onto is going to attack you. Like, it'll give you the indicators. And I found the game to be unplayable without that ability. So I did find those characters to be very important to bring with me all of the time, which is a problem, I think, that, yeah, you correctly pointed out. There's situations where you can not know that somebody is attacking you because they're off screen or they're doing something else, and then you just get like wombo comboed into death.
Right.
So that's less good. But otherwise, yeah, I agree. And then I guess the item that it seemed like you were pushing back on a little bit, potentially, I think the game has a cool visual design to its like enemies, and it lacks variety, but I think that the Slitterheads as like a concept are neat. I think they're well designed in some ways.
No, I wouldn't say I was disagreeing with your original point I do enjoy how the game looks, but when you pose the idea of like what might cause people to like the game or like would had to cause us to have a cult following, that just felt like the weakest one of the three examples. But I think the game looks nice for what it is. Like, I do think the areas have a bit of atmosphere, and the enemy design is cool, even though there aren't that many of them. Everything does kind of have a body horror kind of inspired look to it. So, I was a fan of how it looked, but it wasn't like a huge standout for me.
I guess that's fair. I just think I like the designs of the Slitterheads in the way that I would say that I like designs like of enemies, like villains in horror movies. Like, it's a very memorable sort of design. I like the element of them like being inside of humans, so you don't know where they are, but like then they can just pop up. The game does this. I think that the game mechanically implements this not good because it feels very scripted. It literally is scripted. There's never a time when you could be like walking down the street and like possess a guy and then it'd be like, just kidding, it was a Slitterhead, and so you like spontaneously have to do combat or anything. It just like you get into a room that looks conspicuously like you might fight a bunch of enemies in it, and then a bunch of people turn into Slitterheads and then you fight them.
Right.
But the concept is still good. And I do like the design with like the big snout, and they have like a long tongue that they use to attack you, but they also eat brains because they eat the brain right through their eyeball. Like, it's a cool, like gross alien monster concept.
It's almost a little bit like a slake moth for all you.
It is a little bit like a slake
station enjoyers out there.
Yeah. I feel like probably very few.
Yeah.
In the overlap.
I don't know. I feel like fans of weird fiction probably like horror, weird body horror.
Yeah. Well, I meant our podcast specifically.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it is. And it gives this like, it's that like, it's the same sort of feeling that like a zombie movie gives, where they sort of like this doomed aspect to people who are taken over by the Slitterheads. Like, people are like, oh, we don't want to kill them because they might be people. And then your character goes, nope. Unfortunate for them. Actually,
going to sacrifice people
dead.
Left and right.
Yeah.
Jump off a building and then warp to another person before you hit the ground.
I'm so sad that did not get used more. And I think it's because of the limited nature of the environments that you're in. Mm-hmm. But like, the reason that I heard about this game for the first time was a video essay from Jacob Geller, which is another thing that we can compare to Wanted Dead. Also, how I learned about that game. That talks about the way that this game treats people in it. And I think that like he has a very sort of heady, like metaphorical take on everything, which is correct in the sense that it is a reading of the material that I think works. But the game itself does very little to call attention to it during gameplay. And I feel like it would have been kind of cool if it had, because I think one of the things that this game kind of lacks is that it's not like a horror-oriented horror game. It's a very action-oriented one. And that would have been a way to sort of subtly get at more horror. Like, oh, these bodies are people. The game doesn't ever sort of describe that. You get a good shot of it in the opening cutscene where it's sort of just showing these people going about their daily lives and all that. And like, it kind of treats them in a more meat-like manner. But the game itself is like, it doesn't comment on it. It's up to you to sort of like make that connection.
Yeah, and it really set itself up to do that as well, because it really dehumanizes people. you're very much encouraged to just swap between them, sacrifice them, just treat them like tools. And it definitely was setting up for a point where that gets called into attention or subverted or like used in an interesting way to like make you be like, oh shit, I am just like mindlessly sacrificing people left and right. So like it could have done a Spec Ops The Line.
Yeah.
At some point.
I think I do kind of want to walk back. The game doesn't not comment on it at all. It's kind of like built into Julie's character as being like sort of the conscience of the lead, but it doesn't do a lot to like. It's not transformative with that, like a Spec Ops The Line would have been,
right? Or like a what is it? The Sorrow from
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear 3. Yeah, I almost said Resident Evil 3.
That
wrong game.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Nemesis,
right? There was also this mechanic, and let me know if they keep using it throughout like the second half of the game, but to see through other people's eyes, like who have Slitterhead in them. I thought that was an interesting idea too. And I brought this up earlier, but I think that's the biggest missed opportunity in my head of this game is not playing with that body swap mechanic more. Because, yeah, it literally tutorializes, like, jump off this bridge and then just swap to a guy before you hit the ground. That's literally like a thing, yeah, like that's called to your attention right at the beginning. And it's like, you can imagine how that would be used in interesting ways to get to places, but it never really requires you to do it. And yeah, seeing through other people's eyes, like I brought up the comparison, like you could see it in almost like a Hitman style game or something, like where you have to like get close to a target and you just have all these abilities at your disposal. So yeah, it just felt like there were so many opportunities for cool stuff like that just kind of don't go anywhere.
And the places that they do go are not like expanded upon in a vast way. Like I think that like the biggest like advantage that you get that would like incentivize the player to engage with it more is that you can extend the duration of the like of blood time, like the slowdown effect, which I don't know, like it's like the least cool part of the of the mechanic. It's
right.
Like being able to mob up on a boss. Like obviously that's a thing that you can do. So yeah, it's it does feel like it sort of is missing some opportunity with the mechanic, even though it is like the central thing. I think once again that lack of ability to sort of polish and finish the game made it sort of fall by the wayside.
The only other note that I have is just on how in between missions, the way the story is delivered, where on the map you just have the names of the characters and you can go and watch a weird cutscene where they just have a conversation with Night Owl in their head, and it's these little basic looping animations of them like washing the dishes or like doing yoga or something. I thought that was strange in another way that the game feels cheap. Like that's all that they could afford to do. Just slap that together.
I don't disagree. I do. There's an element of like they chose to do it in the most like jarring way imaginable, which I appreciate. Like I like the fact that when you go into those, like it's the looping animation, but then also it'll just like flash their face up on screen in like a transparency. That is awful, but it feels almost like David Lynch choosing to use, it's not like this, but choosing to use like bad special effects. It gave that same effect. Lynch had the means to do a better special effect and chose not to. They didn't have the means and so went with the best that they could do, but also still chose to do it in like this weird abrasive way that is not traditional storytelling at all.
Yeah, it definitely has a low budget charm, but just very strange. It's another one of those things, like I think as I described it earlier, you have that first time experience where it puts a solid foot forward. You go through the tutorial mission and maybe the first real mission or two, and then you hit that point of like, oh, is it just the same thing over and over again? And the way that those weird looping animations, like that way of delivering the story, just felt like that another thing that was like, oh, guess I just got to go through the list of these every time between missions too. It cemented the formulaic nature of the game, I guess.
Yeah, because you would do it like it was hard. Like if you asked me to like tell you what my favorite mission was, or my least favorite mission, or can I name anything about a specific mission that stands out to me at all? My answer is kind of no, because it felt sort of like a big slurry of everything going on all at once, where you talk to the people, you see the animation, a lot of it feels disconnected from the events that are happening, which I also understand as a way of like trying to characterize each of the rarities, but also it makes everything feel very lackadaisical, very leisurely, and then suddenly you're in, which I guess it is because you just travel back in time, so like whatever, but it's like you do that, then you go to a mission, and maybe it's like the third time you've been through the mission, and it's called RE second loop at the end of the mission now. It was just like everything ended up blending together because of how samey it all was.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
One of my last notes that I have, well, I have two last notes actually, so I lied. But I wanted to make a comment about the combat system that I found weird that I forgot to mention earlier, is that characters, one of the things that does sort of like influence your choice of what characters to bring is that you can, like the certain abilities are shared among like any one that you were possessing at the time. And one of those is Alex's time bomb ability, which when you use it, there's a 3-second timer, and then the person that you're possessing explodes. And so the idea is that you set it and then you swap to another character. I really like this as like an ability. I like time bomb. There's also one that Try has that is like a slowdown, like I'm making a motion like I'm Spider-Man shooting a web at a guy, and then you swap targets, and then that person, like the person that you've swapped from, holds them in place, so it like slows their movement. And I really like those abilities, but I hated using Alex because I would always accidentally time bomb myself because it would replace whatever's in the right spot. And so I would just forget that I could explode. So I kind of stopped taking him for a while. And then by the time that it forces you to take him near the end of the game, I had gotten used to it and didn't blow myself up as much. But I did put in my note like, oh, I hate Alex, blah, 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 all that shit that I said. And then was pleasantly surprised at the end of the game when he turns out to be like the ultimate villain of like the main timeline.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of a funny thing. My other note was just that whenever the Slitterheads come out of bodies, there's like a texture that they put of like the collapsed head around their necks. And it did make all the Slitterheads look a little bit like they were wearing a turtleneck.
Yeah, like I have like a weird collar.
But that's honestly, that's all I got. I feel like there's something else to say, but I'm not sure if I'm the one to have figured that out.
Yeah, sometimes it would be funny. You're just like possessing like a fat guy in his underwear, and then you roll into a cutscene, and you're still a fat guy in his underwear. That was funny sometimes.
I did enjoy the to be continued that shows up at the end of every mission.
Yeah.
And so you could be possessing just like some random person, and then they do like a dramatic freeze frame, and it's just like some guy.
Right.
Not an important character at all.
Generic NPC 42.
Good. Yeah, that was a great decision on the part of the developers, I will say.
Yeah. Phlebotomist thoughts? Cause blood?
Because of blood. I mean, do we have bloody thoughts?
My bloody thoughts are this game was disappointing, and I didn't even have expectations for it. Yeah, it's a very cool concept. It obviously had talented people working on it. The combat system is, I think, well designed and satisfying to play. And the body swapping mechanic is really interesting and felt like it had a lot of potential. And I imagine, yeah, it was a cool thing to show off in trailers and like gameplay previews and stuff. Because the possibility space does feel very large with a mechanic like that. But I think in pretty much every other way, the game falls short. And we've already said it a bunch of times, but it feels like it was probably a budget issue. Games are super expensive now to make. And we kept comparing it to PS2 and 3 games. And I think that is an interesting thought exercise after having played this. So I imagine if this had been a PS2 game, I feel like they would have, and one of the people who worked on Silent Hill broke off and formed his own studio back then. I feel like he would have probably been able to get the funding to make an idea like this and actually flesh it out and have it be of AAA quality of the day. Whereas now, it couldn't even come close to getting enough money, it seems like. So it's very unfortunate. I'm sure we've talked about this in other episodes, but the kind of death of the AA game. Games are either like super expensive, high budget AAA affairs, or they're indies these days. There's very little in between. So it is a shame because something like this is cool, and there used to be a lot more stuff comparable to it out there. I'd say Ghostwire Tokyo is maybe an example of a similar type of game that ended up with a better final product. Yeah, I think it's a shame, and Tango Gameworks got shut down, so wah, wah.
Wow.
Yeah, it made me think about that kind of stuff. I don't know, I guess I'll just end on that downer note. Yeah. This game, yeah, disappointing, but had a lot of potential.
Yeah. You also scooped me on both of the things that I was going to save for my final thoughts. The first one being, yeah, this feels like this game is like emblematic of games that I want to be made. It is a game that has like a very high concept. It has a sense of like creativity to it, and it doesn't care about being abrasive to the player. In fact, it's kind of the point of it, to put you in these like situations where they make creative decisions that are not like rote. They're not things that you see in other games. That stuff is great, and I love it. And I wish that the game could be more than it is, because yeah, it lacks something. It probably money, where I feel like if this was just a much smaller game, it could really explore the potentials of the mechanics without having to get into these big expansive like storyline moments. And the cutscenes, which I think are actually beautiful. We didn't really talk about this. The cutscenes, the pre-rendered cutscenes, are just classically great video game cutscenes where like a guy's head explodes and like a snake crawls out of it. Like, it's cool in the way that the Parasite Eve cutscenes were cool when we talked about those a week ago. But it just lacks in so many different ways, where I was disappointed by how the game panned out. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up that you also scooped me on was that my expectations were, I was hoping that this would be another game like Ghostwire, because Ghostwire Tokyo is a game that was maybe not amazing, but good and explored interesting concepts in a way that elevated it beyond like what it is on a base level, and this just like didn't have that. It is what it is on a base level, and you might like that, but I think most people are gonna be like us and end up sort of bailing out of the game after 4 to 5 hours. Notably, I didn't bail out of the game, and I played it for like 15 hours, and I still didn't finish it, and that feels like a crime because this game just doesn't have the legs to really make it that far. So, yeah, should have been shorter, should have been smaller, or I guess should have been given a whole bunch more money for a game that wasn't going to sell that well. Oh well. It's unfortunate that we live in a system where artistic expression is not properly compensated. Anyway. Thank you for listening to Describing the Skybox this week.
What will we be describing next time?
From the creator of Silent Hill to the current stewards of Silent Hill, we're going to be talking about Silent Hill F to finish our Halloween games later than Halloween, but notably earlier than we finished them last year.
Yeah, we definitely need to revisit our expectations for when we do themed stuff. Maybe 3 games should be the new norm.
Well, you do that, or we just say it's for the next 4 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 months of horror.
But anyway.
The whole year would be taken up by themed months, which astute viewers may note it kinda already is. But until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at describingtheskybox.com or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our Discord server where people suggest games for us to play and talk about the episodes when they come out, or to our YouTube channel where we host all of our old episodes, including ones that we did on Ghostwire Tokyo, on there's Wanted Dead, which has now been mentioned in the last 2 episodes of the show somehow.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I feel like those both cover it.
Yeah, this is another one where this is like a game that we did for Halloween, and we have a whole playlist of Halloween scary games that you can go check out if that's what you're in the mood for.
Lots of horror.
Bloody shot that like button, which will take like about a quarter of your HP, but like does pretty good damage, but like now I'm not always sure if it's worth using that like button.
Jump off of a roof and then swap to a guy on the top floor of the church so that you can ring that bell.
Morph into a giant insectoid creature and then you do a roar and turn everyone into minor Slitterheads in the comments section.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Welcome to the book club. The book club that's like a book club for people who read books and talk about them. I'm Sharon.